How do you compete with that? Well, we have one more, and we'll have one more after that. My privilege this evening is to introduce Jennifer Estep. Jennifer is a New York Times best-selling author. She makes her home in Tennessee. You'll notice that with her wonderful accent. Jennifer's first novel was Karma Girl. It was published in 2007, and since then she has published an additional 29 novels. That's 3 books a year. She writes very, very slowly. She's like George R. R. Martin. On top of the novels, she has also written numerous e-novellas and short stories. Jennifer's Mythos Academy and Black Blade series are aimed at a YA audience, while her Elemental Assassins and Big Time series are enjoyable. They're adult novels, but some teenagers can enjoy them as well. She has 2 more books coming out, if that wasn't enough. Bitter Frost will be the first in a new spin-off series to the Mythos Academy universe, and Cold Sting will be the 17th volume in her Elemental Assassin series. Now, in the past, when she wasn't writing as prolifically, her background is as a journalist, and she's a feature writer and as a page designer for a daily newspaper. And at that point, she had 10 years of experience, so that she's drawing on when she's writing her wonderful books. So let me welcome Jennifer Estep.
Thank you very much. So when I told people that I was going to come to Calgary for a book conference, a lot of people mentioned to me that you guys have the world's largest stampede/rodeo, and that, you know, cowboys and cattle, and it's a really big deal up here, which I didn't know anything about, but I think it was really cool. And then when we got to the airport on Wednesday, I see some of the airport greeters have on their Stetson hats, which was really super neat. So I thought, in keeping with sort of the Old West theme of Calgary, I would read from Unraveled, which is the 15th book in my Elemental Assassin series, because this one is set at an Old West theme park. So I thought, when in Calgary, do as Calgarians do. So my main character is named Jen Blanco. She is an assassin who runs a barbecue restaurant, so my books are very dark and gritty and southern. And in this, she has gone on a holiday to an Old West theme park with some of her friends, but of course danger lurks around every corner. And to kind of set this scene up, she's being pursued by some bad guys, and she's been shot, and she's trying to get away from them. So this is sort of her stampede through the Old West theme park. This alley opened up into a walkway that was full of people, along with food and souvenir carts. I plowed into the heart of the crowd, sidestepping clusters of tourists, but the drug in my system made it difficult, and I ended up stumbling into folks more often than not, all of which made it easy for Roxy and Brody to spot me. "There she is," Brody's voice boomed out behind me. "Get her. Get that thief." Roxy might be a sharpshooter, but even she couldn't risk firing at me with all these tourists around. So the giant and the rest of his outlaw gang started whooping and hollering, as though their chasing me were just another act for the crowd. People fell for it, stepping back to make room for Brody and his goons to stampede after me. Some of the tourists even started yelling and clapping in return, enjoying the spectacle. Well, if the crowd wanted a show, I was going to give them a good one. I started deliberately plowing into people, knocking them aside and trying to create as many obstacles behind me as I could. I also overturned barrels, kiosks, and other displays, including a whole rack of Western wear that had the guy manning it yelling curses at me. Cowboy hats sailed through the air, floating on the winter wind, while silver belt buckles plinked, plinked, plinked against the asphalt like bullet casings. I reached another alley at the end of this walkway, staggered into it, and headed back toward Main Street, where the majority of the crowd still was. I couldn't let Roxy, Brody, and the Giants catch me. If that happened, Finn, Bria, and Owen were dead, and me along with them. Tortured first for whatever information Tucker thought we had about the gems, and then murdered so that we wouldn't be a threat to him and the circle anymore. Tucker would probably let Roxy use us all for target practice, then have Brody and the rest of the Giants dump our bodies in the lake. So I kept plowing ahead, knowing that I couldn't stop, not even for a second, but I was running out of gas, fast. My heart was pounding from all the bobbing, weaving, and shoving through the crowd, making the drug circulate through my body much more quickly than normal. Even though I was flat out sprinting, my legs still felt heavy, numb, and slow, as though I were running underwater. The double vision was getting worse and worse, and my head felt disconnected from the rest of my body, like a balloon that was about to pop off my neck and drift up into the wild blue yonder. Even worse, Roxy, Brody, and the Giants were gaining on me. I could hear the steady slap, slap, slap of their boots on the asphalt, along with the answering jingle, jangle chorus from their silver spurs. In minutes they would run me down, or the drug would finally knock me out, or both. So when I reached the end of the alley and sprinted back out onto Main Street, I darted into the first building that I came to, hoping that I could lose them that way. Naturally, it was the Good Time Saloon. I stumbled through the double swinging doors and ran right into a line of saloon girls who were swishing their skirts and kicking up their heels to some loud, lively piano music. The girls weren't happy about my slamming into them and interrupting their big finish. And then again, ruining shows at the theme park was rapidly becoming a habit of mine. Hey, watch out. What do you think you're doing? Harsh, angry cries rose up all around me, but the tourists sitting at the tables ringing the dance floor thought that it was all just part of the show, and they cheered, whistled, and stomped their feet even harder and louder than before. One saloon girl shoved me out of her way, straight into another one, who shoved me right back at that first girl. In an instant, I went pinballing down the whole line of them, bouncing off one after another. Eventually, I staggered forward, landing right in the lap of an old guy with crooked yellow teeth who leered at me. "Here to give me a lap dance, honey?" he cackled. "Here's your lap dance," I growled back. I reached over, snatched up the glass mug of sarsaparilla that he was sipping, and smashed it over his head, making the dark brown liquid foam and spew all over his face. The guy howled with pain and shoved me away, but not before I grabbed another full mug off his table. I staggered to a stop in the middle of the dance floor, sarsaparilla slopping up and out of the glass, soaking into my clothes and spattering against the wooden floorboards. At this point, the piano music abruptly stopped, the saloon girls scrambled off the dance floor, and the tourists finally realized that maybe I wasn't part of the show after all. But before I could even think about moving, Brody crashed through the swinging doors. "There she is," he yelled. The giant came at me head on, his arms stretching out wide. I ducked out of the way of his bone-crushing bear hug, whirled around, and smashed the sarsaparilla mug across the back of his head. The glass shattered, making Brody yelp, lose his cowboy hat, stumble forward, and fly directly into a table full of guys, knocking their plastic baskets of wings and nachos to the floor, and making them spill their beers all over themselves. That last cardinal sin was what officially started the saloon fight. Those guys got exceptionally pissed that they were now wearing their beer instead of drinking it, and they jumped to their feet. Two of them advanced on Brody, while the other two came at me. I was wobbling so badly that I could barely stand, much less fight back, so I grabbed the closest saloon girl, twirled her around like we were doing a do-si-do, and shoved her at the two guys coming at me. She squealed, and all three of them fell to the ground in a heap of arms, legs, black lace, and crinoline. Click. Over the chaos, I heard the hammer snap back on a revolver, and I looked up to see Roxy standing just inside the saloon doors, her gun trained on me, evil intent glinting in her pale green eyes. She took a step forward to better her aim and make sure that she wouldn't shoot a tourist by mistake, but more and more people started pushing, shouting, and screaming at each other, blocking her shot. I whirled around and ran straight past the bar, shoved through another set of swinging double doors, and ended up in the back of the saloon. It reminded me of the back of the Pork Pit, my barbecue restaurant, with napkins, straws, mugs, and other supplies stacked up on metal shelves, along with several refrigerators and a couple of freezers humming up against the walls. For a mad moment, I considered climbing into a freezer to hide, but I'd run out of air long before Roxy and Brody stopped searching for me. So I stumbled over to the back door, wrenched it open, and staggered outside. I was expecting another alley, but I was in the staging area with its wide wooden pavilions sheltering all the cowboy clothes, hats, boots, and more. A white horse tied to a nearby hitching post whinnied and shied as I limped past, obviously realizing that something was seriously wrong with me and wanting no part of it. "Zip it, Silver," I hissed. "You're gonna blow my cover." Then I realized that I was trying to shush a horse, and I giggled. I never, ever giggled. But right now, all I wanted to do was lie down on the ground and just laugh and laugh and laugh. Oh yeah, I was this close to passing out from whatever drug had been in that sweet tea.